Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Electoral Area Services Committee meeting for May 1st. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the territory of our Coast Salish people and looking for an approval of the agenda with you received three supplemental correspondence pieces as well. And just a reminder to turn off all electronics to silent mode if you can, just double check them. So I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Is there a seconder? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. The adoption of the minutes of Electoral Area Services Committee of April 17th. Moved. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Moving, is there any business arising from the minutes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, there is none.
We'll move now into public input period. So the purpose of the public input is to provide the public with an opportunity to comment on an agenda item before us today. We have 15 minutes in total.
That is correct.
And 3 minutes per person. Welcome. Please head to the podium and speak into the microphone and turn it on. The red light will come on.
Hi, my name is Lori Fritz, and I'm here to speak against the proposed rezoning application located at 3755-3737 Rosedale Road. This rezoning application is fueled by greed. The applicants don't care about this neighborhood, and many of you are aware of their plans to sell the property. When I spoke to Sierra about why this application was back up for consideration, she knew the buyers of the property were present at the March 6th meeting when the application was first denied. I feel like the CVRD is pushing this down our throats. No matter how loudly we scream, we do not want this in our neighborhood. The applicants themselves have not been forthcoming with residents who live in the neighborhood. I attended their open house in July of 2018 and was told all they wanted to do was rebuild what they had torn down. At the hub meeting, I found out they wanted to build a monstrosity of a building where they're applying for a cultivation license. No detailed plans were prepared to mitigate our concerns around fire risk, traffic, water, neighborhood safety, or building plans. And from what I understand, they still have not come up with suitable plans to mitigate these concerns. In fact, all they've come up with is a proposed reduction in size of the buildings, ranging from 35,000 square feet, 11,000 square feet, and almost 8,000 square feet. They also provided a binder to many of the community members that was filled with affidavit-type notes indicating people were aware of this rezoning request. But a majority of the participants were from across the valley, nowhere near this neighborhood. In Mike Tippett's staff report, the options he has proposed are: 1, to remove any special regulations concerning the growing of cannabis. This would destroy our neighborhood. This would mean everyone would be able to grow cannabis on a large scale and would turn this rural area community into a light industrial zone. The second option is to have a maximum parcel coverage of growing cannabis of almost 17,500 square feet. Taking into consideration tiering, this would have a 7.5 meter building height, allowing for 2 stories, making the total growing area of almost 35,000 square feet. The third option was almost 12,000 square feet in parcel coverage with a 7.5 meter building height, the same as in option 1, which again, with tiering, would double the total growing space to about 23,000 square feet. And the same goes for the third option of just over 8,000 square feet. With a 7.5 meter building height, you're looking at just over 16,000 square feet in growing area. None of these options represent a small-scale production facility and are a far cry from what they originally had on the property. I found my notes when I spoke to Sunny in 2018. I was curious of what size of building they had torn down in the first place. He said the accessory building was the size of a 2 to 3 car garage, about 30 by 60 meters in size, or 1,800 square feet. This, along with the 2,000 square feet of growing space that currently exists on the property, totals 3,800 square feet.
You have 30 seconds, so hope you can wrap it up.
This is nowhere near the proposed options given and in no way comparable to the same same scale and size of option 3. The applicants also claim there had been no complaints from the neighbor when they grew in the past. However, this is a huge increase to what they had. I have provided an email map to our community that denotes the people who came out to the hub meeting, took time to write to the CVRD to let them know their concerns, and have taken time out of their day to come to meetings to express their concerns in person. I wanted to clarify that we're not saying that if the applicants tweak this or
Your
that.
time is up, so thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Alicia Shea, and I actually live on the property at 3755 Rosedale. I just wanted to read a couple of sentences here of support from our neighbors that are within the 60 meters. The first one is from 3750 Rosedale Road. It says, "Thank you for taking the time to visit our home and share your well-thought-out project plan with us. We think your plan is highly commendable and responsible regarding water recycling, land use, and management. We are not opposed to you farming cannabis or the proposed building on your property. It seems the real opposition in the neighborhood is the land use change the CVRD is imposing you to undertake. You have gone through so much effort towards applying for permits and doing it in a legal, transparent process. Your project plan is so good it could form a template for other business owners to use in the future products and help the CVRD build new regulations around cannabis farming." The next one is from right next door to us, 3761 Rosedale Road. There is one family that lives there, but it can be broken down into 3 subfamilies. And they have saying that, "Let it be known that we have never had a clue that there was any kind of medical cannabis grow happening right next door to us. Therefore, I would like to say that any concerns the neighbors have of odors, I really feel are unsubstantiated. If a backyard grower has the ability to keep this under control for the past 10 years, I feel that any Government of Canada Health Department licensed cannabis grow operation will be even more regulated to the highest standards. And finally, as far as a few of the neighbors' concerns of children playing on the streets, I would like to add to this that none of the children living at our address, and there are 5 children that live there, use the street as a playground. No, nor in all of the years we have lived here, which is 6, we have never noted any other neighborhood children using said road as a playground. In all honesty, I do hope and encourage the CVRD to proceed with this application, as more than one of us that reside here are looking to forward and secure employment where we may walk to work and perhaps even run home to grab a bite of lunch. Please reconsider this application and see it going forward."
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello. I'm here to speak on the application that my husband and I and our boys have in for the subdivision of 5 acres off our 30-acre farm on 3836 Glenora Road. At this time, we have applied under Section 514 that reads, "Despite the minimum lot sizes established by a local government zoning bylaw, because it is located in the agricultural land reserve." Section 514 is there even though there are designated parcel sizes, and that is why we are applying. I don't want any of you to be under the assumption that this is emotional. Yes, we have emotional ties to the land, but my husband and I and my family would not do anything to the detrimental of agricultural land and the support of agriculture in the valley. This is to enhance and support the community plan in place. This particular 5 acres has sat there doing absolutely nothing for as far back as we can trace it, which is over 80 years. And I am more than happy to supply the perspective that without time, attention, and an influx of money towards bringing in water and hydro to that piece of land, it will lay that way for at least another 100 years. My sons live in Victoria. They'll talk to you about that. But their heart and their ties are here to the valley. They would like to continue on with farming in the valley. My husband and I would like to continue on supporting agriculture in the valley. We've done so for 30 years, 50 years. On the 30 acres, We have not used that back corner lot for many reasons. It's an unusual piece of land, and your section 12 that follows your 514 does allow the subdivision of land if it is unusual terrain. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce my son, Grayson.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, I'm Grayson Nichols. Yes, I'd just like to speak on the same parcel that my mom was talking about. I would be the third generation on this property, so obviously it does have some emotional ties for me because I learned what hard work was at a young age on that land. Living in Victoria is pretty expensive right now, even with a government job. I would like to move back to the valley as fast as I could. I'm here for 25 years. We're guaranteed work with the military on this coast, so I'm always going to be here for most of my life. Being on that parcel and on that land is just everything to me. There's not much more I can really say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Hi, my name's my name's Jared Nichols. I live in Victoria, and I work for the City of Victoria, and I also have a Bachelor of Science in Geography from the University of Victoria, and I would essentially like to move back to the CVRD and basically come home in the future, as soon as I could, and I just see breaking off this sorry, I'm just nervous. Just breaking off this 5 acres would be beneficial and economical for the community and the valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi there. My name's Chad Allen, and I live kind of across the road. This is regarding the A2C rezoning application on Rosedale Road. I live diagonally across the road. I realize the potential economic benefits, but the impact that this would have on our neighborhood would be detrimental. If this property is rezoned, others will follow suit, not only in our neighborhood, but all over the valley, which will create pockets of industrial land in what were once beautiful parts of the valley. I'd like to think that it's obvious that once properties like this are rezoned, they'll be sold to the highest bidder, and once the humble proposed structure size that has been submitted by the applicants, they'll end up getting maxed out by the new buyers. So it won't just be that small proposed building. This means that the application needs to be considered with the worst case scenario in mind regarding the repercussions of the decided vote. Structures related to this industry are known to carry increased fire hazard. The fact that we live in a single road access community, that a few of us live on the far end of the street of the property, creates a serious safety concern. Non-existent fire hydrants and the potential of limited water sources to fight fire of a structure of this size, I don't think it can be overlooked. You can't really argue safety. Obvious concerns such as water resources, which are already stressed, traffic on already busy country roads, significant decrease in property values, not to mention odor and noise pollution, both of which are byproducts of this industry. The technology just hasn't been developed enough to completely stop the odor or noise from saturating the surrounding areas. These are major and legitimate complaints by people that live around buildings such as this. My family, along with most others in the area, have built their lives and are raising their children in this area because of the natural surroundings and the lifestyle that it provides. I realize development is a necessity of life, and done in the right way usually benefits everyone to one degree or another, but this is a rapidly expanding industry that needs to be handled with caution and in a responsible way. I believe trying to force this industry into our community as fast and as easy as possible will only degrade the quality of life that we've all come to appreciate. Facilities such as this need to be on industrial land
30 seconds.
where they have security, power, and water resources while still providing the benefits of the community with employment opportunities and all the related financial benefits. This is the planning stage. This is the time to integrate this industry in a sustainable way that keeps our valley a place we can all be proud of, even if this means doing it the hard way by developing and expanding existing industrial lands. I know this is a bit of a cliche, but what if this was getting pushed into your neighborhood across the street?
Thank you. There's 2 minutes left in the public input period, so we have 2 minutes only.
Okay,
So
I'll try to go as
2
fast
minutes
as
for the
possible.
last speaker. You be the last speaker.
Okay. I'm speaking on behalf of the rezoning project as well. Hello and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm a direct neighbor of the rezoning lot on Rosedale Road. I would briefly like to address 4 issues, time permitted. Firstly, my concerns with the potential side effects for myself and the neighbors, the applicant's mitigation measures, the compliance of these mitigation measures, and the long-term effects of this precedent-setting case. My concerns, commonly associated with commercial marijuana grow ops, are going to be noise pollution, smell pollution, safety issues like fires, increased traffic, there's unknown effects to the watershed, and there's a decrease in property value. I have previously submitted to Mike Tippett a letter documenting my concerns with these issues. In the letter, I quoted a newspaper article where a journalist out Abbotsford interviewed neighbors of commercial grow ops. These are some of their direct quotes from the newspaper article. "The smell is atrocious. The smell is something of rotting meat with the mist of something like a fabric softener. The cleaning systems are reported to be operating at 75 to 85 decibels. This is loud enough to cause hearing damage, and it's like living next to a rail yard." The particular operation quoted in the article is owned by a company on the Canadian Stock Exchange, and that corporation was unable to mitigate the issues I have stated. The applicant,
30 seconds.
we've heard that the applicant has mitigation measures in place, but if a multi-billion-dollar corporation was unable to mitigate these issues out, I'm not sure how much weight we can hold on the applicant's mitigation measures he's stated in the last thing. I guess that's my time, so.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So I see there is one more speaker, but I have to request from the committee a unanimous vote for another 15 minutes. If this is in public input. Yes, I'm sure they do, yes. Is that the applicant? Yes, the applicant does have a chance to speak. Okay, so we don't have to do that. Okay, thank you very much. We're moving on now to seeing no delegations today. We move into correspondence, and C1 is a grant and aid request. Electoral Area B, Shawnigan Lake Cobble Hill Event Society. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item C1, the recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid Electoral Area B, Shawnigan Lake, in the amount of $1,000 be provided to Cobble Hill Event Society to support music in the park.
So it's been moved. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on now to C2, grant and aid request, Electoral Area D, Cowichan Bay, Cowichan Bay Improvement Association.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid Electoral Area D, Cowichan Bay, in the amount of $200 be provided to Cowichan Bay Improvement Association to support the purchase of new Canadian flags for the Village Cleanup Day.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Director Morrison.
Would just suggest that this be recommended to your association, that they might go across the street and talk to our MP's office.
They used to do that. They don't anymore.
Really?
Apparently I was told that, yes.
Well, I know that there's a limited supply.
Oh,
so
okay, well,
anyways,
it's a long road in the village.
I'll
but
support
thank
the
you for-
recommendation.
Thank you so much. I'm calling the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Moving on now to C3, grant and aid request, Electoral Area D, Cowichan Bay, Cobble Hill Event Society.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid Electoral Area D, Cowichan Bay, in the amount of $500 be provided to Cobble Hill Event Society to support music in the park.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on now to C4, which
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I guess.
There is email correspondence dated April 23rd from Sheila Paul as supplemental information to item UB2, application number RZ18B01, and that's 3755-3737 Rosedale Road.
Thank
And
you.
that's for information.
Thank you so much. That's for information. Seeing no other questions, moving on now to IN1, Electoral Area E, Cowichan Station, Satlam Glenora Advisory Planning Commission meetings. That's also,
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is there are copies of the Area E, Cowichan Station, Satlam Glenora Advisory Planning Commission minutes from the meeting held April 9th for information.
thank you. Seeing no questions, moving on now to reports. We will move to R1 and instant application on Glenora Road, and I'd like to request Allison Garnett. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an application to subdivide land in the Agricultural Land Reserve. So on Glenora Road, within Glenora and Electoral Area E, as shown on the slide. The parcel is designated agricultural under the Area E official community plan. It's 12 hectares in size. It is located in the Agricultural Land Reserve, as are the surrounding parcels. It is zoned A1 primary agriculture, wherein the minimum parcel size is 12 hectares. Some of the site characteristics, the existing parcel is 12.4 hectares in size. There are 2 existing residences on the parcel. It's designated agricultural. It is zoned A1. There are a range of soil classes on the parcel. 80% is class 4 soils, improvable to class 2. There is distinct terrain in the area of the proposed new lot, which I'll show you on a future slide. As far as the application, the proposal before you is to subdivide a 2-hectare parcel, leaving a 10-hectare remainder. The subdivision is being made pursuant to Section 514 of the Local Government Act, which allows for subdivision for a relative or oneself when land is in the Agricultural Land Reserve, and that is a way of not complying with the minimum lot sizes of a given zone. The Advisory Planning Commission for Area E reviewed this application at 2 meetings. The attached meeting notes and minutes, I believe that they reflect the difficulties in coming to a recommendation on this application. The minutes and notes, they note the importance of retaining agricultural land, not just because of the OCP policy, but the importance of agricultural lands to food security and the effect on the adjacent agricultural parcels. But they do note the compelling personal stories of the applicants and their inherent value of their knowledge and stewardship of the land and their contributions to the community. Now I have some photos. This one shows the proposed new lot. So you see in bold, new lot 1 would be 2 hectares in size. There would be panhandle access to Waters Road, and that would leave the 2 existing residences on the remainder lot, which is 10 hectares in size. I have some photos. This photo is basically a view looking towards Waters Road, so of the new proposed panhandle. This is an image looking west. So as I said, the proposed new lot has noticeably rockier terrain and a bit of a knoll and trees located on it, so that's a view of that perspective. This third one is looking west again at the knoll from a different angle. And this is, I think, identified as a potential future house site on the parcel, although perhaps the applicants can add more to that. The staff recommendation is based on an objective view of this application based on land use planning principles and and the agricultural objectives and policies of the official community plan. This application is inconsistent with plan policy and those land use planning principles. So the recommendation before you is to deny the application and not refer it to the Agricultural Land Commission. I do have a slide showing the other options available because with ALR applications there are often many recommendations. The other options all involve referring the application to the Agricultural Land Commission with various additional recommendations. So recommendation to deny, a neutral recommendation, or a recommendation to approve.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant wish to add anything?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Come up to the podium.
Absolutely.
So if you wanted to use the slides matters, please feel
Actually,
free to do so.
okay.
I can do it for you.
Thank you. So what I'd like to add here is section 514, despite the designated parcel size, does allow our family the opportunity to subdivide off the smaller parcel, as well as the fact in section 12 being unusual terrain, which it is. As a matter of fact, this particular parcel couldn't be more unusual if it tried. Unusual being out of the norm. All the way around the piece that we'd like to subdivide off is flat hay meadow, a bit of rolling area. That knoll is, as Allison spoke about, you can see here in this picture, it's a significant rise. The blue all around that section, or almost all around that section, is where water lays for a significant amount of time throughout the year, because the neighboring residences drain onto that particular land. That land is class 5 soil, which is 2 classes away from the worst soil you can have. It's rocky and it's gravelly. We have managed to, through a significant amount of time and energy, raise the rest of the farm from class 4 to, in most places, class 2. But it has relied significantly on the irrigation. I draw your attention to the east side, or the right side of this picture. That is where the home, the barn, and both irrigation ponds lie. The property that we wish to subdivide off is in the farthest, almost the farthest corner, west of the home, west of the water. The reason everything got put to the east is because that's where the power is and that's where the water is. The only way to do anything with that land other than leave it where it is to bring in power, to bring in water, to the cost of close to $100,000 or more. In the policy, it refers to a farmer wanting to put his outbuildings out there. A farmer is a very practical person who doesn't waste his time and he doesn't waste his money. He can't afford to. So he's not going to walk a half a kilometer across his fields to let the chickens out. He's not going to put his chickens a half a kilometer across the field because they're subject to predators and theft, of which unfortunately Glenora has seen its portion of. So a farmer is going to move his outbuildings, as you see in this picture, as close to his home as he possibly can. That particular piece of land, as I mentioned, has sat doing nothing for as far back as 80 to 100 years, and without the influx of time and energy, and most importantly, money, it won't do anything at all. It's a rocky, gravelly hill that has water, as you can see, most of the year around the edges. So it is not good soil for growing anything. But sadly, in the people that have visited the farm, because the word did eke out that Richard and I were thinking of selling, we asked them. We didn't tell them what our plans were, but we asked them what they thought of that back corner. One great farmer brought his shovel. He wanted to know what that soil was like. And I pardon the expression, but he said this land isn't worth the powder to blow it to hell. Without a lot of water, a lot of time, and a lot of money. He said the best that he would do is clear cut those trees. That's 1.5 acres of beautiful Douglas fir trees, of which Allison loves very much. Allison Nicholson, you enjoyed those trees very much. We don't want to cut those trees down. You start taking those trees down, you're going to take the strength of the outside of the crop, and we're going to end up with a whole bunch of blowdown like we did last winter. Those trees serve a purpose. Not only did they provide oxygen, but they will provide the shelter for the stock that we would like to raise on that land. We have raised pigs over 100 at a time. We have raised beef cattle, many at a time. We would like to do this on a smaller scale. Our son has his degree. He has helped us plan. Our other son has the brawn. He is prepared to help because this is his farm. He loves it. This land, I understand within the community plan about preserving and protecting farmland. This particular piece is farmland only in name. It serves no useful purpose right now. My husband has kept the broom bush cut down just to keep it from spreading. We have tried to grow sample crops there. It has not worked. We've bucketed many, many, many gallons of water back there to try. We have tried everything. But as you can see by the picture, the irrigation ponds are far too far away for us to move any water that distance. Where we can move the water is by bringing the hydro in inside that 5 acres. And this is why we did go 5 acres. We don't want just a little stamp of land to build a house, to grow old and die on. We want to continue farming this, not just for ourselves, but for our sons who can't wait to get out of Victoria at any chance they get, and the one son that is hoping to relocate up here, but for our children and our grandchildren, maybe our great-grandchildren. This land left the way it is now, I understand preserving farmland, but this land left the way it is now will remain that way. Anyone interested in farming the rest of that farm is going to do the same thing that my husband and I did, and his family before him, is to put the money into the practical end of things, which is taking the land that's going to produce, building on it, and bringing the money out of that land. They are not going to waste time or energy or money on a small piece of land that even after they finish all that they're going to do, it is vulnerable to the elements, to the predators, theft. It's just not practical. But what we're asking is to let us continue doing what we have done for the last 60 years, and that is to be farmers, to be self-sufficient, to produce crops that we can bring into the market and sell, to promote agriculture in the Cowichan Valley. That's what we know, that's what we love, and that's what we want to continue to do.
Thank you so much.
This particular piece of land, with time and energy, will allow us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking to the committee, is there any questions for staff or for the applicant? Director Morrison, then Director Smith.
I have questions for staff.
Ms. Garnett?
So I need some help in understanding a little bit about some of the APC notes and recommendations here. So I'm looking at the attachment H, which is a January 8th meeting. And so was this an actual meeting? Because I noticed later or further down in the document that there were significant absences, and it's notes in lieu of minutes. So I guess that's my first question. Was this a duly or a properly organized meeting, and did it have quorum?
I can answer to that if you like.
No, it's through the staff.
Yeah, I'll answer
Yeah.
some. Thank you.
Ms. Garnett?
Thank you. To be honest, I don't have an answer on that. I don't know why the minutes were reflected as a meeting and not a full quorum. Perhaps the area director, I'm not sure if she was in attendance, can answer that. The reason I included those minutes or those notes is because they were referenced in the formal minutes where the sort of a decision was made on it. So they reflected discussion, and that's the reason I included them. So it's
Okay,
best to
follow
answer
up,
that.
Director Morrison?
Yeah, and so through to the minutes of March 19th, I'm looking at, and I gather it's the same one, number 1, delegates were present, and it appears there was a vote on this application, and according to our rules and procedures, it says 3 in favor, 4 opposed, 2 abstained, so that's actually a vote in favor. So if the recommendation were from them a vote in favor, would that have any impact on your recommendation to this committee?
Thank you. No, it would not have changed staff's recommendation on this application.
Thank you. Director Smith, then Director Kuhn. Is
Through
it
the-
Director Smith to staff or to the applicant?
To the applicant,
Okay.
through the chair to the applicant. So you're saying the 5 acres, you're going to farm that 5 acres, you're going to have cattle, or you're going to have some sort of farming going on that 5 acres?
Absolutely.
So right now, the way that it sits is a farm, and that farming practice could take place on those 5 acres.
On a much smaller scale, absolutely. It's doing nothing right now.
But it could be doing exactly that, right?
On a smaller scale with the infusion of water, time, money, which is
Okay.
not happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move now to Director Kuhn, staff or the applicant.
To the applicant.
Okay.
I understand water is draining onto that piece of property
Yes,
from the neighbors.
the 3 houses above,
How
surface
are you
water.
going to deal with that water inflow?
it
If-
dries up.
But if you want to build a house there,
There's areas where actually our house will actually be above our equipment shed. We don't want to take up any more of the usable land than we actually have to. The water where it lays now does dry up, but unfortunately the soil is not such that we can grow anything on it.
okay, thank you.
But there is a ditching that we can do. We can use some of the rocks from the land. We can ditch it and we can divert it and hold it for some time, not much, to water what we need to water.
Sorry, we can't have anybody for the gallery. You could step up to the podium if you're one of the, part of the application, you could step up. Follow up, Director Smith? I have Director Kuhn, I have Director Acton, so I'll go back to Director Smith after. Director Acton, staff or applicant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the applicant and then to staff, I kind of have 2 questions. First, I'd like to say, well, your property looks really beautiful. A lot of ALR properties got mining and a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't look so appealing. And that I know that our community is troubled with some of the farming practices, so your property looks really well maintained and respected.
Thank you.
But I'm unclear of what you're trying, you're trying to cut off the pan piece for yourself to retire on, and then are you selling the rest or giving it to your sons?
No, we would be selling the rest.
Okay. And my question is for staff. I thought there was a practice with the ALR in order to, well, I guess it's to remove ALR land, but is there also something where you could buy another piece of property in lieu? Or that's just for removing it from the ALR, so that doesn't, for us, it's just the zoning and what our OCP states. that's
Could-
dictating.
Could I try to answer
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
I think some communities have a policy of if you're going to exclude land from the agricultural land reserve, you have to include it elsewhere so that there's no net loss. This is not an application to exclude land, it's just an application to subdivide.
It will remain in the ALR.
Director Smith.
Thank you. To the chair, I'd like to move the recommendation by staff.
Okay, well, I was going to look to the director of the area, but it's been moved. Is there a seconder? There is no seconder. Okay, Director Nicholson.
Yeah, this, as Allison Garnett noted, this has been a really difficult application. The Nichols are longtime farmers in Glenora, and they have a tie to the neighborhood, they have a tie to the land, and they're an asset in the community. And if you look at, you know, if our policy and our OCP did not have the 12 hectare minimum for subdividing, you would look at this and you would say this is a reasonable request. And I cannot support this subdivision, so I would like to recommend, I will vote to deny it. But I would like to recommend, I would like to move option 2 because I really feel that they deserve a fair hearing and the ALC should take a second look at this. And
Okay, could I have someone
So that's
read
my
option
motion.
2, and then I'll look for a seconder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Option 2 is that it be recommended to the board that application number ALR 18E03, 3836 Glenora Road, be referred to the Agricultural Land Commission with a recommendation to deny as the proposal does not comply with official community plan bylaw number 1490.
Okay, that has been moved. Is there a seconder? It's been seconded by Director Smith. Is there any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. No? Oh, the 5, sorry. So that motion's defeated, sorry. So that motion is defeated. I'm looking back. It was Director Kuhn, myself, Morrison, and I believe Marcotte and Wilson. So there's Director Kuhn.
I move to option 3.
Could you read option 3, please, Ms.
Do we
Harrison?
have a seconder?
No, we don't.
Okay. Option number 3 is that it be recommended to the board that application number ALR 18E03, 3836 Glenora Road, be referred to the Agricultural Land Commission with a neutral recommendation.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Seeing none. Oh, it's been moved and seconded. And go ahead, Director Acton, to
Yeah.
the motion.
I think that's a kind of a more appropriate response anyway for Mrs. Nichols?
Yes.
It sounds like you're a great.
Shawnee. You would call
Shawnee,
me
you're
Shawnee.
a great contributor to the community and you've been there a long time. And looking at the map, at the properties across the road, there's lots of smaller properties around there. So I think the wording will perhaps give the ALR a better response of who you are and what you stand for, and I think you'll have a better representation, so.
I'm going to
I'll
call the
vote yes to
question.
that.
Is or is there more discussion? Okay, we're talking about option 3. Director Smith?
So the OCP states clearly that this property does not meet the OCP in Area E. And by saying that with a neutral recommendation, we're going against what the OCP for Electoral Area E has indicated is the wish of their community. Is is that what we're proposing here by saying we're a neutral recommendation, our land use planning department has worked diligently to put together information based on our OCP, and our job here is land use. And our OCPs, we use the OCP to create our land use.
Thank you, Director
Thank
Smith.
you.
I'll move now to Director Kuhn and then to Director Morrison. Director Kuhn to the recommendation.
The OCP is not something that's written into stone. It's a guidance for the community, and yes, it's a wish by the community, but there are circumstances at times where we do go against the OCP, and this is one of these instances where this could happen. And that's why we have a board, and that's why we do make at times decisions that are maybe not very comfortable. That's the whole purpose. If we totally adhere to the OCP, we wouldn't need a board. We just have a black and white Bible that says, oh, okay, you apply. No, that doesn't apply, out. So that's why we have a board, and that's why we make decisions.
Director Morrison.
Just like to ensure that the committee is aware that in every presentation that I've ever heard from the Agricultural Land Commission, this is exactly the type of resolution that they don't want from local governments. They do not want neutral recommendations. They want us to own our decision, and I won't be supporting this.
Thank you. Director Nicholson.
Yeah, I feel strongly that the official community plan has a very good policy in it, and in fact, it's even going to, hopefully will, in the review of the OCP, that the food security aspect of agricultural land will be strengthened. And you know, without doubt, this is a very difficult decision because it has a real human component to it. But the thing that's really swayed me in the end is the trouble that the Coxsila watershed is in general. And I do not think that we can support further residential sprawl in these areas. And I think the more we can limit development at this point until we understand where we are with the watershed and the water and our water supply, I think we have to be very careful.
Okay, I'm seeing no other hands up. I'm going to call the question on option 3. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we'll start all over. The motion's defeated. You're moving option 4. Okay, could you read option 4, please, Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That it be recommended to the board that application number ALR 180E03, 3836 Glenora Road, be referred to the Agricultural Land Commission with a recommendation to approve.
Is there a seconder for that? Seeing none. Now I look back to the committee. Director Morrison.
Move the staff recommendation.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder? It's been moved and seconded. I'm going to call the question on the staff recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? It's passed. 5-4. Again, I didn't, okay. All in favor? Which is including me. Oh, I can't count today. Okay, opposed? Okay, so we're back to square one. That was defeated. Director Nicholson.
I'd like to try option 2 again.
Okay. Sorry? We can't, but that's the reconsideration. You can do a different form if someone has that in writing or wishes to hand it in. Absolutely. Where's option? Okay, I'd like to, call for a, we've been through all of the options. I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess. Come back in 5. Thank you so much. You can sit down. And I'm turning to Director of the area, please.
I'd like to move that the application ALR 18E03 be denied as per the official community plan number 1490 policy regarding agricultural land, and I'd also further like to refer it to the Agricultural Land Commission for further consideration.
That's been moved. Is there a seconder for that? It's been moved and seconded. Yeah, could you read that again, please?
I'd like to move that application ALR 18E03 be denied as per the official community plan number 1490 agricultural policies and referred to the Agricultural Land Commission for further consideration.
That has been moved and seconded. Is there any questions? I'm seeing Director Morrison.
So I'm looking to our corporate officer. My understanding is that that was an option that we already voted on. If we just reversed the language of it, could we have
Harrison?
some clarification?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The intent is the same, but the wording is different. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on now to number 9, unfinished business. It is a March 2019 building inspection report. No. Yes, it is right. Yes, I am on
Thanks,
on
Madam
track
Chair.
here. Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
I'll keep this one brief.
Thank you.
This was for information only. There is no presentation. You have the report in your packet, but I can answer any questions you have them.
Are there any questions for Mr. McDonald concerning the report which we received in our package? Seeing none, I'd like to think, now, apparently there is now. Director Acton.
Well, I always comment about how they don't really tell us a lot, a good story. Could you just kind of give us a better, gist of how are things going and what's your feel out there and what are people predominantly doing and that, just a brief.
Okay. In a brief summary, we've actually had a very steady year this year. If you look at permits themselves, looking here from January, February, March, and April, it was 20, 35, 34, 36. So we're not seeing ebbs or flows. We're actually just seeing a very steady flow of building permits. We also have quite a number in the queue. So I think you'll see steadily too as the summer approaches that we'll also have quite a few more permits being approved.
Director Acton, a follow-up?
How's the workload feeling? Is it like we're feeling good, we're busy, but we're on top of it, or we're
Staff is being pushed to its limit right now. We are going to have, I believe that HR is going to post for 2 of our positions, so we're just waiting for that, but they're in the queue.
Thank you so much. Seeing no other, thank you. Moving on to unfinished business. Rosedale application number RZ18B01. This was from our February 27th, and the recommendation is for direction. Mr. Batstone, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, Okay, thank you again for the opportunity. I'm presenting on behalf of Mr. Tippett, who was the planner working on this file. And I apologize if I don't know all the answers, but I know there's been a lot of information out there in the community. This issue has come up several times at both that committee and the board. This application has been reviewed by APC and it's been the subject of a public meeting. So I will not revisit all the issues that we've discussed. I will just key in on some key information that I would encourage this committee to discuss as it relates to the staff recommendation of the report. And I have the PowerPoint slide on the screen for you to remind you of the 4 options that were discussed. And again, these 3 options rather came out of extensive consultation with the community and the CVD organization, broadly speaking. And now it's time to dive into it. But I'm going to step back one quick moment and share some of the facts and just kind of tell the story about how I think we got here. Again, I've been working with Mr. Tippett as I've been trying to move the land use regulations related to cannabis industry forward, because this is a very interesting test case. So I'm going to pull up 3 site plans, which I think kind of give you a better sense of what's going on, because there is a lot of information. We've seen various iterations of the application, and so here it is. This is the site plan that reflects, as I understand, the condition of the lands. One moment, sorry. In April 2018. So you can see some buildings on here. There's a survey. I'm going to zoom in here a bit for everybody's benefit. Let's just say this is highlighted in red is the parcel boundaries. You can see two primary buildings on the site, both dwellings. And here in the middle, if you follow my cursor, is what I understand to have been the original production area. So this is the scale of the building, as opposed to what you see in the upcoming slides. It shows the proposal. I have to get one more file here. I apologize. So, and okay, I'm just going to back here and reiterate in case anybody has missed it. This building, which housed cannabis production, to my understanding, sometime prior to 2013 and up to 2017 in full conformance with the Government of Canada's licensing protocol, was here. And then through an unfortunate set of circumstances, a misunderstanding or something, the applicants in the CVRD had discussed the limitations of non-conforming lawful use as it pertains to the cannabis operation in A2 zone. And for whatever reason, the building's not there anymore. And that is reflected here on this site survey, which, okay, now you can see conspicuously absent a building which formerly housed cannabis production. The residential buildings still remain, the driveway is in the same location. There's a horse corral that's always been there to my understanding, or at least for a very long period of time. There's an accessory shed here that may or may not have had something to do with the secondary use of the property. And then we get to the application itself, which was eventually revised to this. And this is more or less, to my recollection, the polygons that were placed on overlaying on the site plan to reflect the various options that are before you, as reflected in the previous PowerPoint slide. And there's been, as you know, if you attended the APC meeting and the public meeting held at the Hub in November of 2018, there's been a series of kind of comments that resulted in these various iterations. As I understand it, the new building could be here in the green polygon, but could also be somewhere here in the B or the C, which would all add up to option 1 that's in your reports. Option 2 is, to my understanding, only the green polygon, which would total, I apologize, about 3,000 square meters. And then option C, as you know, is to return to what I showed you on the first site plan, was the original 800 square meter or thereabouts building. So I will, unless there's any other questions for me, I will leave it at that and look forward to this discussion.
Thank you. I would like to ask the applicant if they wish to add anything. Welcome.
Thank you. I would just like to address some of the concerns that some of the neighbors have had. One of them suggests that the smell of rotting meat. I would like to reiterate that Health Canada has some very strict conditions that all this, the smells, the water, the lights, everything is dealt with, as opposed to somebody who is just doing a medical grow-op or a backyard grow-op, which in fact this person did have his own medical grow-op. I guess the smell of rotting meat didn't bother him then, but it did catch fire in 2012, and that was another thing he brought up, was the fire hazard. I would like to point out that the fire department was very prompt in extinguishing it. It saved their house. My husband, who was a firefighter in Sydney, was the first on the scene to help contain it. So I know the fire department is well on board. They've submitted a letter saying that they're okay with this, and they've proved it already. There was another complaint about the children on the road and people coming and going. This same person that complained during the snowstorm almost lost his children because he was towing them behind his truck in a sled. And another neighbor was coming flying out of his driveway, waited for the car to go by because it was slippery.
Are we just not sticking to the application, though?
Anyhow, the concern of children, I don't think is there. Another applicant here complained about we were holding things back. It didn't come out until the hub, but they were actually at our public meeting or our open house. We're well aware of the square footage. They wanted to know what our budget was. I don't feel I have to explain any of that to neighbors. That's between me and my financiers, which brings to another point about us selling. We have never offered our place up for sale. We had investors at that meeting. There was never anything to do about this, us selling the place. It said that we haven't got plans for the building. Well, having plans drawn up are expensive, and if we're allowed 35,000 square feet, we'd have plans for that. If we're not, that's wasted money. So I'll wait and see what I'm allowed to produce, then I will have plans, and it certainly isn't going to be a cinder block building, I can assure you of that. People keep talking about it being residential. It's not, it's agricultural. That is why a lot of these people that are complaining have got horses in their yards. They farm sheep in order to get their agricultural taxes. Not to mention solar farms. I would like to know where that comes in agricultural, but there's several of those in the neighborhood. Noise pollution. What I would like to bring to your attention here is the ones that are complaining the most about noise pollution cause the most noise. This here is one of our neighbors works for a helicopter company and brought his company vehicle home. And we've got about 6 of these videos of this high altitude helicopter landing on their property. I'd like to know when we became a heliport on agricultural land. So, I mean, people are complaining about things, but they should look at their own self first before they start throwing stones at us. I am willing to work with anybody that wants to work with me as far as size goes. Ideally, yes, I'd like to get 35,000 square feet. If that fails to go, I could put some micros on the property, and failing that, I just want my buildings back where I can grow my own medical marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff or the applicant? Okay. Yes, Director Acton.
This is for staff. Could you refresh me a little bit about what happened with the grandfathering building? I can't remember how we got here on that building, because that was one thing that I wanted to consider.
Mr. Batstone, I'm not sure, it was Mr. Tippett that had this.
Yeah, Mr. Tippett is certainly a lot more familiar with this from a staff perspective, but I would encourage you to defer to the applicant as well. I think the main point from a land use planning law point of view is that this building did exist. Sorry, I need the slides on the screen if that's possible from administration. The PowerPoint slides, please. Thank you. This is garage and shop. So the non-conforming, this would have been deemed a non-conforming use. The activity began before the CVRD attempted to regulate medical marijuana production. It would have been constrained to the footprint, to the inside of the walls of this building, and that land use privilege, by following conventional land use law, the decisions of the court, so that if the building disappears, the right to continue that use also disappears. So here we are with an application to enshrine that, and the previously authorized use by the government of Canada, with the permission of the CVRD, the local government of the day, under our new regulations, and the rezoning goes a step further and asks for an enlargement, which I would suggest could be characterized as those numbers have risen through a negotiation with the community and the organization. So now we have 3 options in front of us. Does that help?
The applicant would like to add something.
We were given, as he said, there was some misinformation, misunderstanding, whatever you want to apply it to. We were told we could take that building down. There was 3 garages, a suite, a shop. There's a couple of other smaller buildings, sundry buildings that associated with it, and told we could build in the same footprint and perhaps go a little larger. That's what we were told. However, that was erroneous. We did get a demolition permit. We were also told if we continued to grow, which we did not cease growing. We have another building on the property. It's not on the slide, but it's the little one further down. We've continued to grow medical marijuana. We have 3 medical licenses. We have not done anything illegal, or are we planning on doing anything illegal on the property? What we want to do is we want to get our building back. As my wife said, that's what we want to do. And you know, the consternation and everything about this it's been almost a year, and we've been growing marijuana since 2009 without any complaints, as is in the report. So we're just asking for something that we were doing, and we'd like to rebuild the buildings and continue doing what we were doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Nicholson.
So I am really interested in this issue of scale and what we're looking at in terms of the buildings. And so, and I'm also interested in the different kinds of marijuana licenses. So could you refresh my memory
On the various
There's 2 kinds of licenses,
There's
I
a
believe.
micro-cultivation license.
And that allows you to have how much?
Federal government, as I understand it, sets a maximum canopy square footage. I think that's 200 square meters. Maybe Mr. Shea's more of an expert.
I'm not an expert, but I've been dealing with this for a long time. There are 3 licenses in Canada right now, licensed by the federal government. One is what used to be called an LP, a licensed producer, which would be Aurora, Tilray, Canopy, the bigger ones. And then there are now what they call micro operations, which are 2,155 square feet for a grow floor. But then
Just about 200 meters square.
Okay, well, I'm not an expert on meters, obviously. And the other licenses that are available are medical marijuana licenses for consumption and use of the people who are growing it. You, as a resident of Canada, can grow 4 marijuana plants in your house, providing the neighbors don't see them in your window. That's their rule. But there's 3 licenses, and you can grow, if you want, 4 plants.
Is there a follow-up, Director Nicholson?
So I'm interested in what the footprint of that original building was, because
It's in their app.
It's option 3, approximately 740 square meters, which seems to correspond with the site plan that I showed you before. Can you hear me? Sorry, I apologize.
Yep, we can hear you.
So 740 square meters. So that would be like about 5,000 square foot house kind of thing?
About 8,000 square foot, so larger
To
than
me,
micro.
that looked, the footprint on the map looked a lot smaller than that.
There had been additions put on that footprint over the years by the previous owners and by us. There was workshops in the back, there was containers, there was a trailer. That is all gone now, with the exception of the one little shed that is still being used.
Still being used, okay.
So, committee, we are looking for direction. This has been brought back to us. What is the committee's pleasure?
Madam Chair, I do apologise. I was just digging out my calculator. Could
Director Wilson.
For the applicant, could you just refresh my memory on the second license, the square footage that was allowed there?
The micro licensing?
Yeah.
The grow floor is, Tony?
200 meters.
2,175.
Square feet,
For the grow.
okay. And that's square feet, so how many square meters is that?
200.
200?
200.
Follow up, please.
Yes, Director Wilson, go ahead.
So I'm a little bit confused here. It says the 750 square meters of the previous operation there is far greater than this 200 square meters?
I had a much larger area that I was using for our medical licenses, being designated grower in that. That is, medical licenses, designated grower is what I was doing. This micro grow has, you're only allowed to grow, and I stress the grow area, for a much smaller area. But then there would be the taking down and the drying and stuff like that, which would be in separate areas and that. So, and as far as the buildings go that we had, when you add it all up, the additions, there was 3 extra garages put on it after the fact. There was another floor put on it. There was containers, a trailer, another shed. It all added up.
Direct, microphones off, please, those who are not using theirs. Director Acton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel for you guys. This has been a rough road for you, or at least a long one, emotional one. And I felt like coming into this meeting, I had a clear direction or idea of where this could go. Now, I really feel like, yeah, it's tough to make some decisions, and this one is precedent setting. And it's not about cannabis or, is it legal or does it smell or, or is it a good business idea? I think we really need to backpedal here and look at what are we agreeing to? I'm starting to get a little bit unclear about, so what kind of, so I did a little bit of research last night. I looked at our cannabis bylaw, just to be a little clearer on it, and we have definitely zoned it for light industrial or industrial areas. And nowhere does it say it's agricultural, so I don't feel like, we should be comparing to agriculture. And this is an A2 zone. And it's an A2 residential zone. And then I also looked on our GIS system and looked at A1 and A2 and Area B, because you're Area B, and we have a lot of it. And then I looked in the Cowichan Valley, and we have a lot of it. So, we're at this table, and if we're going to say, yeah, you can have it in your area, which I actually think is problematic for the spot. Like, it's not the best location. It's not the hobby farm feel. I agree with the neighbors on that side of the argument. And I looked at Area B, 89% of our taxes is residential. So your taxes would be residential, but you're proposing a commercial activity. And you wouldn't be paying commercial taxes. And this is a major issue for us. Can I finish? So And then I also looked up, okay, well, if it's not agriculture, what else could it be on our zoning for A1 and A2? So I looked at home-based business. This is essentially a home-based business because you would live there. And the description of home-based businesses does not fit with this. The size of the building maximum allowed for your home-based business is 90 meters square. And the reason for that is so that it doesn't become a commercial business in a neighborhood. And we have some of those in Area B. We have retail stores happening right in residential areas, and that's a missed opportunity of commercial taxes, and we all suffer in the long run, where we should be able to get that tax base. And in that home-based business, there's lots of specifications that I don't think you could run your business in. So here today, as well as talking about your business, it sounded like a great idea. All of it, it really does. And I just think it's the wrong spot. And now it feels like there's a lot of information that just keeps coming, and we're not even sure what are we even agreeing to anymore. What's going to happen when it's there? That's what. So. Okay, I'll let you go. Or Madam Chair, I'd have to let you go, but I'm not done.
Director Acton, do you have a resolution? Are you
I would like
coming
to.
So I think we should move forward. Okay, then move forward with your, I don't think we should.
I would like to move that we go with number 5, and it's unfortunate for these applicants, but I think we need to look at the whole area and what we're gonna do with A1 and A2 and what we're gonna allow and how that's gonna, what the implications are gonna be. So
and
that would be number 5, that application. Do you want me to read it?
Go ahead, yes,
that
please.
number RZ18B01 of 3737/3755 Rosedale Road be denied.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And do I have any more discussion on the denial? Director Nicholson.
Well, I'd just like to add that I also looked at the A2, specifically the A2 across all the electoral areas to try and understand what A2 actually was. And then I talked to Mike Tippett, and this A2, you can subdivide it down to 5 acres. So we're talking about small lot type of a situation. And it is really essentially rural residential, but the difference between A2 and rural residential, according to Mr. Tippett, is that you could actually have a lot without a house on it and just farm it if you so desired. And so essentially, from my perspective, and this is what I've thought all along about this neighborhood, which I know, is that it is a rural residential neighborhood. And the scale that is being proposed here is out of keeping, as Director Acton has described, with that type of a neighborhood. And it is even, what is being proposed is even larger than the micro-cultivation licenses that, the 2 types of licenses. There's the big ones and the micro-cultivation. And so what is being proposed is for a large-scale license. And I just don't think that this is the right precedent to set in A2. And we don't have a lot of A2 actually. Most of our agricultural land is ALR. And I think we have to be very careful about even considering this type of thing in this kind of a situation.
Okay, so are there any other questions for staff or the applicant? The applicant wish to add? Yes. Okay. Oh, too late, sorry. You cannot add anything if you have a seat now. The motion is on the floor, so I'm going to call the question. Can you turn your microphone off, please? All in favor? Opposed, if any? There's 3 opposed. Motion is carried. That will go to the May 8th, 6:30 board. Thank you very much. Moving on now to, where are we?
New business.
New business. We don't have any new business.
There is none?
There's new business. We're moving on now to question period. So if there's any questions, we are now in question period. Questions shall be addressed to myself as chair and must truly be questions and not statements of opinions and questionnaires are not permitted to make a speech. Is there anybody from the floor that wishes to ask a question?
My question is, so with the vote, is that it, or is there another
There's a
mechanism?
recommendation of denial, and that will go to the May 8th board. So that goes to it goes to the board for ratification.
Okay, so there could be a potential revisit to the issue.
Yes, there could be.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, hello, I'm Sheila Paul, and I just want to verify that I am in Area B. I'm on the other side of the mountain, Calbahoe Mountain, so, and I didn't receive notice enough, that's why you saw my name in the agenda.
Yes, we
Anyways,
received your information as a sub.
yeah, so now my understanding, I want to make sure I understand this. So what that gentleman just asked, it can go to the board for ratification. What about public hearing? Is there any, because I'm trying to read and trying to understand where this goes now.
There's no public hearing that this goes. Explain the process that it needs to go to. This one, yeah, there's just, there was a public meeting. Go ahead, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Explain the process.
There was a public hearing.
Meeting.
No, sorry, meeting.
Yeah.
The recommendation coming out of that came to this committee. This committee has recommended to the board that the application be denied. That recommendation will go to the May 8th board meeting, where the board will have an opportunity to accept that recommendation or reject it. If it's accepted, then that is the end of this application. If it is rejected, it would go back to Electoral Area Services Committee to start the process again.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that's for the benefit of lots of people, so
Thank you.
thank you very much for clarifying that.
Welcome.
Can I ask a quick question?
Certainly can.
Are we,
If I
are
can
the
answer it.
applicants able to get the buildings back that they tore down?
I don't believe so. So staff can answer any of that. I don't know.
If it's in the same footprint, build a regular building back?
Don't believe so.
For the suite?
But you could ask staff that question after the meeting.
Okay.
And then you can get clarification. So I
Okay.
don't want to give you an answer because you're addressing the chair right now that
Right.
may not be accurate.
Right, I'm just wondering because
Yes.
of the suite
So
that we
you have an
lost.
opportunity to ask
Okay.
staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else for questions, I'd like to motion to go into closed. Meeting to go into closed in public accordance to the Community Charter, Part 4, Division 3, Section 90, subsection is noted in accordance with each agenda item. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? 5 minutes to recess for the gallery to clear.